Hello everyone and welcome back. In this video I'll be showing you my method for creating working lifted suspensions for Hot Wheels vehicles. In particular I'll be lifting this Datsun 620, not really a truck you would lift in real life, but one that I thought would be interesting to see in Hot Wheels form. I'll be using common items in this video so anyone should be able to follow along at home. There's a lot to cover, so let's get started. The first thing I will do is take the car apart. I have a video that goes over this process that I'll link here if you're unfamiliar with taking Hot Wheels apart. After the car is apart, I'll use some plastic cutters to remove the plastic fingers on the base that hold the wheels and axles on. Once these fingers are removed, the wheels and axle assembly will fall right out. Be sure to keep the wheels and axles for future projects. With the axles removed, I'll use a small needle file to clean up any remaining plastic that might get in the way of the new axle I'll be installing later. You can purchase these files at most auto parts stores and online. With the filing done, I'll put the truck back together and then try out different wheels. I should also note that I'm using a vehicle with a flat base. This is important because trucks that already have lifted suspensions built into the base will not look right using this method. I'll be building a complete wire suspension under the truck. The wire I'll be using will come from normal paper clips. Paper clips are very commonly used by the Hot Wheels customizer. They're easy to get, they come in different wire sizes, and they are mildly hardened so they can be used as springs. And the best part is you can buy a near lifetime supply for a couple bucks. The first thing I'll need to do is prepare the paper clips. I like to use a small piece of flat steel to open up the paper clip onto. The steel bar helps prevent ripples in the wire. Of course, at the end of the day, you'll probably still have a rather bent up wire. You can use some pliers to help straighten the wire, or you can straighten it using a different method. What I'll do is take the wire and place it in the chuck of a drill. I'll put a small hole a little bit bigger than the wire in the flat steel bar I just used. I'll place the wire in the hole and then move the block up to the chuck. I will then bend the block out about 5 degrees while I run the drill. As the wire turns, I will pull the block down its length. Doing this will straighten the wire. Once I have gone down one way, I will flip the wire around and do it again. When I'm done, I should have a very straight wire. Placing a small hole in a piece of metal like this is not very easy. Luckily, this will also work with wood and other softer metals. However, these other items will wear down rather quickly and you'll need to place new holes in them every few paper clips. Now that I have some straight wire, it's time to start bending. I like to use these two types of pliers. One is a straight box type that has a nice flat surface, and the other is plain needle nose pliers. You can buy both of these usually at auto parts store, especially the needle nose. The flat box type, you may have to look online for them. So the first thing I'll do is grab a wire and then move down about an inch and put a 90-degree bend in. Once I have that bend, I can place the wire in the axle slot on the base. With the wire firmly seated, I will bend down the other side. This will give me a U-shaped piece of wire. I'll use my pliers to bend the two lengths so that they're parallel with each other. After the wire has been corrected, I'll place it on the base and then use the wheels and axles to determine where I want the next bend. This is where I will choose how far the wheels and axles are from the body. If you want the axles and wheels to really move a lot when you press down on the truck, you need them to be as far away from the body as you can get away with to give them room to move around. If you're going for a more natural look and don't care about a lot of movement, then you can put the next bend closer to the body. For me, I'll go about halfway down the short side of the wire and bend in a V shape. Now using my square pliers, I'll use them to line up my next bend across from the last and then press down. I'll then use the needle nose to make a V just like the first. When I'm done bending, I'll trim off the extra wire and then end up with a shape like this. I will then repeat these steps using this prepared wire as my guide to make a second wire shape. The parts need to be as symmetrical as possible, or the wheels will look crooked on the truck, so be sure to take your time. With the wire forms made, I can go about installing the axles and wheels. This is done by slipping the axle into the base of the V I made earlier. With the axle in place, I can start moving the cut end of the wire, closing the V shape. This small part is my calibration wire. When I push the axles towards the center of the base, the cut ends of the wire will move up and jam against the base. How far you bend this wire changes where it hits the base and changes the position of the wheels. If the V is wide, the wheels move towards the center of the base. If I close the V all the way, the wheels might stick out in front of the car. I can change all this later, so for now I'll place the wheels roughly where I want them. Depending on what wheels you're using, you may have to bend the wire in or out so that the wire is touching the axle and is pushed against the wheels. Once you have the front wheels in, you can repeat these steps to put in the back. Remember that the cut end should face the center, and how much you close the V will change the location of the back wheels. Once the wheels are in place, I'll put the car back together to get an idea where things are. I want to be sure that I don't have the wheels too low or too high. Something else to take note of, and that I have purposely caused here, is that you do not want the front axle higher than the back. It's very unlikely that you'll be able to get the wire forms perfect. One will hang the wheels lower than the other. Just remember that you want the front to be lower than the back, just like in real life. You don't want the truck to look like the empty bed is weighing it down. Now I need to start working on the inner suspension. I'll take another wire and center it on the base. Using a marker, I'll place marks on the wire at the edges of the base. Using some pliers, I'll begin bending the wire in on itself. I'll then use the pliers to measure in on the bend and make another bend 90 degrees to the first. This is all pretty hard to explain in words and is much easier just to watch, but at the end I will want a wire form in the shape of a T. Next I'll need to make a small U-shaped wire form where the base of the U will be able to fit around the base of the T I just made. These two parts will make up the spring assembly and will be adjustable by sliding the two wire pieces. This next part is by far the most annoying. Toy Ploy would say this is very fiddly, but I need to get the adjustable spring assembly under both axles and centered on the base, without the wheels and axles falling out. I find the best way to do this is with some tweezers to tug at the wires until they go where I want them. Once they do, I can use some pliers to squeeze the U-shaped wire to the top of the T-shaped wire. This will cause the ends to sweep away from the base and hit the axles and move them to the bottoms of the V I made earlier. In essence, the suspension will spring to life. How much pressure I apply to the pliers determines how much pressure the wires will place on the axles. Once I have the pressure I want, then it's as easy as supergluing the wires together at the top of the T. If you have a little superglue accelerator, this will go much faster. Once the glue is set on the wires, I like to glue the entire top of the T to the base to hold everything in place. With the spring assembly all set, I can go around and clean things up, like removing the long ends of the wire and cut them closer to the axles. I can also make any adjustments to any of the other wires, like move the wheels in or out for the front and back. After the adjustments are made, I can put the truck back together. So with the truck put back together, I like to put it through some performance tests. First thing I like to do is to make sure that it rolls well, which in this case it does. I like to press on the back to make sure the back suspension is working, and the same for the front. And of course, to make sure that it all goes down and side to side. Alright, this one seems to be performing well. So this is a very simplistic and cheap method for lifting a 1/64 scale die-cast vehicle. As such, you can do a lot of these in a short time span. Of course, this is not the only way to lift these cars, and I'll place some links to other videos from Die-Cast Show Customs and Sic Diecast if you'd like to see some other ways of performing this. And of course, when it comes to customizing, you can mix and match all the different techniques if you like. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video and give this a try. If you have any ideas or you have a better way of doing this, then please comment below. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.